Good morning, everybody. I'm Eureka John, and you are at Eureka Street Crypto, broadcasting live from Leander, Texas at 6:09 in the morning on November 4th, 2021. And it's a Thursday, but today's my Friday because I'm taking Friday off. And for a well-deserved family break, my kids have been chomping at the bit to go to the beach, but it's been cold, wet, and rainy, so might be an interesting, fun, rainy time at the beach in which we can hear the water. But yeah, we'll just all be inside playing board games. Maybe that's the case, maybe not. But yeah, this is my video blog, and I broadcast live every single morning. Good, bad, and ugly. I put it up there. I don't edit it, and this is my process of learning. This is my discipline, and every single day I make it a point to learn something new about cryptocurrency and about this whole Web 3.0 phenomenon happening right now, the fourth industrial revolution of information. The data oil revolution. It's a lot of big things happening right now, and it never gets old. There's always something new. I go to bed with just thoughts swirling around in my head about everything that's happening right now with the world and with technology, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I try to understand it as best as I can. And the reason I'm doing this blog is because it helps me in the morning to try to articulate outside of me the stuff that I've learned, because you can listen to podcasts and you can read all day long, but if you can't explain it outside of yourself, then you don't really know it. So sometimes it works beautifully and I completely understand the concept, and other times it's a disaster and I'm trying to explain it and I'm basically like, so but yeah, you get to watch me go through that process, and I've been doing this over a year now. I started October 24th, 2020, and here I am November 4th, 2021 at 319 episodes, because at the beginning of all this process, I was trying to figure out, what was a good time for me and stuff like that. So I didn't do it every morning up until February 6th, 2021. And since then, I have not missed a day. Even if I've had to do it from a hotel room. One time I was out camping and it was thunderstorm, and I found like an awning in which I could sit under while it was lightning and thunder out. Anyway, so let's take a look over here at the old crypto market. Little disclaimer, not financial advice. Don't take my financial advice, period. I suck at financial advice. And I'm not a teacher. I'm not here creating instructional materials or anything like that. It's not what I do. Some people talk, they comment about how I just ramble, sometimes, about skateboarding, about this or that, yeah, man, I don't want to get to the point. This is my blog, and I'm not here to go down a bullet pointed list of topics for you. So, all right, let's see here. Let me go ahead and refresh this page, and got my kombucha today. I swear to God, I bought some apples and a banana at the grocery store, bananas at the grocery store, because I always have apple and banana with me, right? It's how I start my day. But I think I left it in the little bagging area. I'm walking around this morning and being like, dude, I remember specifically picking out those Honeycrisp apples. I'm very particular about my Honeycrisp apples. I've tried the other ones, the Galas, the Granny Smiths, the Red Delicious, and all that. The Honeycrisp, man, that's the ones. All right, so anyway, Bitcoin's at $61,927.43. Ethereum, $4,541.46. So Bitcoin has been hovering above 60,000. So I mean, it's like, I believe that I don't think that we're gonna go lower than 50,000 ever again. And just my humble opinion. Now, if that's because Bitcoins are worth a lot or because the dollar is being printed into oblivion, I don't know. But this is just a bunch of interesting takes on that, and I'm not here to try to give technical analysis or price forecasts or anything like that. A lot of people firmly believe in Plan B, which is I believe the person is in Denmark or something, and they created this graph that shows the 4-year Bitcoin halving cycles and then the valuation along with that. And some people are religiously following that Plan B graph. So if you look at Plan B Bitcoin, if you do a search for that here, I'll just do a quick search and just show you Plan B Bitcoin. and you will see this graph. You've probably seen this graph if you watched any other cryptocurrency type of videos. There, it's that one. The rainbow looking graphics, and it shows the 4-year cycles right there. And so far, it's been pretty, on point. So some people just they religiously believe in it, and then other people are like, no, it's different this time around because the institutions are stepping in. We have institutions and extremely wealthy people dumping their money into it. We have the likes of Visa and MasterCard buying, implementing cryptocurrency into the platforms and buying it, putting CryptoPunks on their order, on their accounts, in their treasuries. I mean, so yeah, it's a whole different paradigm shift this year since 2020, and this is a lot of. So the last halving was in May of 2020. And a lot of things have happened since May in 2020 in the crypto markets and in Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff like that. For instance, DeFi was born last summer, or in the summer of 2020. And DeFi has revolutionized the entire banking industry. And it's turned everything on its head. So it will be interesting to see if this 4-year cycle is different than all the previous 4-year cycles, because back then it was just for nerds and magic internet money and all that stuff. So so let's go back over here to the old gecko. Okay, so Binance Coin 557.39. Solana takes 4th place into 242.13. So Solana's jumped up above Cardano and Tether. So Solana's really doing very well. A lot of people say that it's an Ethereum killer. I don't believe that there's an Ethereum killer. Solana is bridged to Ethereum. It's compatible with the Ethereum virtual machine. It's the Bankless guys, Ryan Sean Adams and David Hoffman, make good points about Solana being very difficult to implement the validators. Like, for instance, Ethereum, anybody can run a validator with 32 ETH. It's pretty easy to set up. I've even mined Ethereum from my computer here that I'm broadcasting this on, and through a pool, of course. I don't have 32 Ethereum, but it's pretty easy to do. Not with Solana. So what that does is it narrows down the people that are able to do that, and it centralizes everything in a tighter locus. So when you have higher centralization, then you have less decentralization, and decentralization is what blockchains are selling. It's what keeps the integrity of a blockchain. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But things like gaming and NFTs and stuff like that, do you really need the tight the huge decentralization? You need speed and you need scalability, and Solana has both of those right now. So it'd be interesting to see if Solana starts maybe taking more into the gaming and NFT market, where Ethereum acts more like as a payment settlement layer, or a decentralized finance settlement layer. I don't know. I'm just thinking from the top of my head, but I don't know. I think all these Ethereum killers are going to find their own niches or die. And then there's all these layer 2 solutions, because layer 1 Ethereum is slow and clunky. It's going to be a settlement layer, and I've said this before on a lot of episodes, in which there's a lot of the waiters around, and they're doing their everyday little transactions, and that's what the layer 2 solutions like Optimism, Arbitrum, Polygon, and stuff like that are doing. And then at the end of the day, they log in their transactions, collect their tips, and then put everything in the Ziploc bag with the receipts. And then the manager takes it over to the bank and does the settlement at the end of the day. And that's kind of what Ethereum Layer 1, I think, would be doing. So anyway, Cardano 203, XRP $1.20, Polkadot 53.04, Dogecoin 26 cents, USDC is a stable coin. Shiba Inu. Shiba Inu, it's been knocked down to 11th place now, because it was neck and neck with Doge up here near the top 10. It's down 31.7% in the past 7 days, and I think that has to do, and I'm actually really kind of happy about this, because these meme coins bother me, because what's happening with meme coins, I think, will give regulators justification to rush on in and say, you see, we told you crypto was volatile and a scam, and we need to keep you safe from projects and tokens and investments like this. All this is a scam, just like the rest of crypto. We're here for your good. We're here to protect you. We're here to protect the little man, even though they want to figure out what's going on in our bank accounts over $600. But Shiba Inu, somebody early on bought $8,000 worth of Shiba Inu. Well, that $8,000 is now worth like 2.9 billion or maybe even 5 billion by now. Hold on, let me see. Shiba whale moves. So anyway, that person that had that $8,000 that turned into that turned into several $billion. The thing is that there's no liquidity to be able to cash out that many billions of dollars. You would absolutely wreck the Shiba market if there's even that type of liquidity to even cash out from it. So there's not. So what would be the best way to exit that type of market? Take your money and run. It would be to incrementally pull out. But the thing about blockchains is they are absolutely transparent. Shiba Inu's on the Ethereum blockchain. All you have to do is pull up Etherscan, and you can find the addresses that are major whales, and people set up notification alert settings on these whale wallets. So whenever these whale wallets move large amounts of crypto to other places, it's an indicator. It's a canary in a coal mine. It's a signal that will tell people something's about to go down, and that'll tell people as an indicator that they need to sell, maybe need to buy or something. But if you see a large amount of one particular cryptocurrency moving from a notorious wallet, or a whale wallet that you have found on Etherscan, and you see it's being moved over to an exchange like Binance or Crypto.com or Coinbase or something like that, they're about to dump. So that tells you that you should probably dump yours too. So anyway, Shiba Inu falls after $2.3 billion worth of SHIB moved from a whale wallet. So the price of Shiba Inu has fallen 11% after a series of transactions from the whale wallet that famously transformed a $3,400 purchase last August into $1.55 billion. On November 2nd, the whale moved 10 trillion 100,000 Shiba Inu tokens to 4 separate wallets. Each transaction was worth approximately 586 million USD, totaling about 2.3 billion USD. I don't know the implications of that, but people watch that and it's on the news. Look at this. Shiba Inu just in 24 hours. That was a few days ago. It's dropped 31.7% and it's dropped down to 11. I'm actually happy to see that. I think this stuff is these meme coins, even though they're fun, they're kind of dangerous, like Dogecoin was. I read about the history of Dogecoin, Jackson Palmer and Billy Marcus, and it's a fun project. It was there to poke fun at the people who took Bitcoin so seriously back in the day. Anyway, yeah, so that's that. I want to move on. Let's talk about a little more about DAOs. I know I've been on a DAO kick lately. I'm in the Bankless DAO. I really like being in the Bankless DAO. And I'm in the AV Guild, and I've been trying to improve my podcast here by associating with the likes of those people and also contribute where I can. In the Bankless DAO, I've been given challenges to create videos for teaching people how to navigate Discord. I'm just joined a project to help people to improve their smart contract literacy, not necessarily to code smart contracts, but to be able to go into Etherscan and to read and write to smart contracts and to be able to look at a smart contract and know what's going on, because that's really important whenever you are trying to choose a project. Yeah, you look at the team, you look at the history, you look at all the technicals and the tokenomics and the fundamentals and all that, but it would be really good if you knew how to look at smart contracts and be able to thoroughly understand it, so you could actually look out for some exploits, or just some fishy stuff. Maybe some copy and pasting from other projects, and then you can look at, for instance, PancakeSwap is pretty much a copy and paste from Uniswap. They didn't even bother to change the extensions. in there, the naming extensions. So yeah, and that can kind of tell you a little bit about the security, about the mechanics, and maybe how it'll work or not. I don't know, but it's just helpful to know. And then, for instance, as well, if a website is down on a particular project, then you can go into Etherscan. Here, for instance, Etherscan. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Man, I don't know. I'm getting sidetracked. .io Etherscan. Jeez. Here's where you can see. For instance, let's go into here. Here's where you can see all the transactions that happen. When I was talking about whales watching, people watching whale watching, and putting notifications on when whales move their wallets, they can go into Etherscan and they can pull up contracts, they can pull up tokens. In CoinGecko, each token has their little contract address, so you can pull up that contract address, and it's right here, and you can just copy and paste that. Then you go to Etherscan and you pop it in there, and you can see all the transactions. Anyway, to be smart contract literate, say the website is down for whatever project you're working on. So whatever, say Aave is down and you have some money staked up there and it's stuck and you really need that money and you need to unstake that or whatever. You can go in here to the contract address and you can look here and you can, transfer from, unstake, or whatever. And it just teaches you how. I would be in these videos helping to explain and teach you how to navigate through all this stuff and to read smart contracts. So yeah, here's the contract. You can read the contract right here. Yeah, and yeah, there's how you can read it. And then here's the code, the actual code. So yeah. And you don't have to know Solidity in order to be literate in smart contracts. And, code literacy and smart contract literacy is literally the new literacy. There's so many doors that open when people learn how to read. Martin Luther posted his 99 Theses. He started translating the Bible from the Latin to the local German, and it empowered the people to read the text directly, to not have to take the word of trust of those trusted intermediaries known as the church that were there deliberately to help disempower the people. So yeah, it empowered the people. So does knowing code and knowing how to read smart contracts and stuff like that. It's a new form of literacy. Anyway, so back to my point. I'm in the DAO and I'm doing all these projects, and I'm in my little corner in the AV guild world. And I don't really get out much into the other guilds, but I should. And then governance is one of those things. Yes, I go and I vote on things, but there's some people in there that's what they do. They're into governance, and that's their shtick. It's not really my shtick. Well, Frogmonkee, he's in there, and he seems like a really cool guy, and he does a lot of the governments, and and he helps out. He helps to build out the infrastructure within the DAO. He does a lot in there, and he's now been working as an editor for the Bankless HQ. So let me differentiate between Bankless HQ and the Bankless DAO. Bankless HQ is Ryan, Sean Adams, and David Hoffman, and they started this newsletter several years ago. And then now the newsletter, which I subscribe to because it's a lot of alpha and a lot of really good news. And it's not just about number go up and pump, 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 sell your bags, load your bags. It's about useful stuff, man, that you can get out of these newsletters, and I get it every single day, and there's almost every single day there's something in these newsletters I want to talk about. Anyway, Frogmonkee wrote this article about the governance of DAOs and about DAOs as economic engines, and I thought this was a really cool concept and a way to think of it, because governance I don't really understand. It's not something that I think about a lot. I'm just in the DAO there just to kind of help out where I can. But anyway, so let's take a look at this article. I made some highlights, or let's see here. Read the full post here. All right, there. Yeah, I made some highlights and stuff. I learned some new concepts. So the next big unlock for DAOs: why decentralizing capital flows will unlock a wealth of opportunity for DAOs. And I'm going to link this article in the video description so you can read it for yourself. So the Bankless Nation does the little intro to the article. Okay. So we've made the case that DAOs are the future of work, and I agree with that. We firmly believe that. So, right, that's why I'm a part of the DAO, because I firmly align with those things that but it's still really early for DAOs. Tools and infrastructure are sparse. Most DAOs are still fairly centralized, and they're definitely not autonomous. The good news is that we're making progress. We're learning how to DAO together. And if you imagine, there's a lot of work to do. Communities need to migrate to on-chain governance, find better alternatives to token-weighted voting, and more. But there's one thing not really talked about, and that's decentralizing capital flows. Most of today's DAOs rely on centralized grants committees to distribute funding to their projects. These committees are made up of a few members, making the flow of capital contingent on them. To put simply, it's centralized. And as much as DAOs like to talk about decentralization, yeah, we're a horizontal organization, we're all contributing, there really is some kind of centralization. And then you have to have consensus in order to put together proposals, and then people vote on those proposals, but those proposals are pretty made up, well made up. And then the people with a lot of seniority and weight and stuff like that in the DAOs, they tend to have more sway. And whenever they say something or reject something, it goes, and say, for instance, somebody who's well established in the DAO would have put up a proposal. Not a whole lot of people will probably vote against it just based upon that person's reputation in the DAO and the power that sways with them, versus somebody who's in there, only been in there for a little while. They'll put up a proposal. It probably won't even get to actual voting stage because they just don't have a lot of a strong voice in there yet. So yeah, there is centralization that happens, and especially on grants committees, because the grants committees give this yay or nay whether or not they will put a proposal up to a vote or not, or be to fund it. I guess. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. You can still put the proposal out there, but whether or not it will be funded. So most of today's DAOs rely on centralized grants committees to distribute funding to their projects. These committees are made up of a few members, making the flow of capital contingent on them. Put simply, it's centralized. As such, we need to find better ways to decentralize capital flows for DAOs. All right, so let's go on to the article. So here's some common questions. We need to move social consensus on chain. We need to stop using token-weighted voting. We need to distribute power away from core founders. We need to insert decentralization tactic here. So everybody's wanting to decentralize in DAOs. While all valid points, one thing that we don't hear enough is distributing capital flows. How can DAOs efficiently allocate and distribute capital without burdening the system with bottlenecks and bureaucracy? So how can money flow, capital? How can money freely flow around the DAO without it having to be bottlenecked at one person or one tiny little committee of people saying yay or nay? And the grants committees are right now that bottleneck. And luckily the Bankless DAO has some really good people on their grants committees, and I think that they're pretty objective in how they make their decisions, but it's still centralized. So capital is leverage. When applied properly, it provides us with the right incentives and purchasing power to build. In our current phase of evolution, capital often comes from centralized sources within a DAO. It's treasury. If you look at any major DAO, each has its own grants program for funding projects and other initiatives that are valuable for the DAO. It's a useful primitive for allocating capital, but it's centralized around a core committee. And I did click the link here to see what the deal is with why there's a link for grants programs. There's a grant program in pretty much every DAO. So every DAO, the people in the DAO, and even people outside the DAO. For instance, the MGH DAO just got a grant from Ocean Protocol DAO to be able to work together with Ocean Protocol to provide. So, for instance, Bankless DAO is working together with UMA to do some KPI type of stuff. So there's ways in which different DAOs can work together. So not all grants are going inside the DAO. They can go outside the DAO as well. But yeah, there's some grants committees, and look at all these different DAOs and projects that have these grant funds. There's a ton of them. So if you have something you think is worthwhile and that would relate well to any of these specific projects, you can go apply for a grant. Uni Grants program is a huge one. If you think you have something worthwhile, then go apply for a grant and get yourself funded. Go full-time crypto, right? So the next phase in our evolution is to move capital flows to the edges and enable discrete groups to create their own standard operating procedures for circulating capital. DAOs will evolve into complex structures where each node in the network interacts with the others to receive and distribute capital in the form of grants, revenue splits, bounties, paid positions, and more. Not only will this unlock multiple sources of funding, each uniquely curated to address a particular capital requirement, but it will also form a resilient and scalable economic structure that can only be attained through organic and decentralized governance. So here we have a graph, a graphic of the grants committee right in the middle, and they have their hands on the purse strings, and then they're distributing out to each individual guild. We have 13 guilds in the Bankless DAO, and they all go to the grants committee. However, a phenomenon that's been happening in the Bankless DAO is a lot of these different guilds have been forming their own little sub-economies, and so each guild has been given an amount, and then each guild has formed their own little governance units and their own little treasuries, and from there they will buy and sell their services and buy and buy. So say for instance the AV guild needs some graphic design work. If we're creating some videos for, I don't know, we would need some graphic design work. So we would have to buy that graphic design work. They would set a template for what they charge for their work, and they act as their own individual little businesses within this economy. And so every guild starts turning into their little businesses, and they can buy and sell from other guilds and from individuals within those guilds as bounties. And it turns into a total little economy instead of everybody having to rely on the centralized grant committee for every single little transaction that goes on in there. Somebody in the DAOists, whenever we were talking the other day, because I'm part of that DAO also, and they were talking about, it'd be interesting to think about maybe even DAOs forming tokens within their DAO for each guild to have their own token. I was like, wow. That's a whole other rabbit hole, but we're not there yet. The DAOs, everybody's learning to DAO together. So evolving capital flow at Bankless DAO. Bankless DAO is slowly moving towards a decentralized economic engine pictured above. As I mentioned, all these guilds kind of being little businesses and little sub-economies within the economy. We still have a grants committee with 7 members, but we're beginning to see some innovative examples of coordination at the edges, forming their own methods of acquiring and distributing capital. Let's explore some of these methods. So guild budgets. Bankless DAO is organized into 13 guilds. The guilds are talent pools and represent different competencies available for other members of the DAO to join or tap into. Writers, developers, analytics, design, legal, etc. Each guild has its own budget to allocate as they see fit. As expected, many of these guilds have bootstrapped and funded projects that fall within their domain, effectively creating 14 total sources of funding in addition to the singular grants committee. So, for instance, the AV guild can act as a creative house that can go outside of the guild and bring in revenue into the guild. They can keep a percentage of that and then put the rest into the treasury. So they're their own little businesses, buying and selling outside of the DAO and inside the DAO. So, for example, guilds quickly grasp the concept of having their own capital pools instead of relying on a central flow from the grants committee, and have begun to find ways to bring capital flows into their multi-sigs. A multi-sig is a wallet with several signers on it. Not one person holds the purse strings. You have several signers on one wallet. So, for example, the Developers Guild negotiated a 10% revenue split for their involvement in the DAOpunks NFT project, while the Writers Guild takes 10% of all paid external client work. So, an expanded guild treasury means more elected roles, bounties, micro grants, and efficient capital allocation for initiatives that are guild specific. And then, another thing evolving is standard operating procedures. At Bankless DAO, guilds often interact with one another, tapping into the varying skill sets of each guild, like asking the AV guild to produce videos, requesting a Twitter campaign from the marketing guild, or commissioning a newsletter graphic from the design guild. Thus far, these deliverables have been priced on demand, which has been great for price discovery, but inevitably produces bottlenecks. To this end, we're seeing the very beginnings of standardized deliverables. So the marketing guild has created these plans to be able to offer their marketing services. The AV Guild, we are also working on creating different services, sound services, sound editing services, content editing, post-production for video, animation, stop motion animation versus vector animation. So there's voiceovers and stuff like that. So each one costs a little differently based on the complexity and the time allowed. And then of course there's custom projects. So the marketing guild is the first of many to standardize their offerings, just like companies and services do within a broader economy. Transparent pricing and deliverables will make it easier for other guilds and projects to budget for future expenses and make for more efficient capital usage. Okay, and then cost centers. I didn't know what a cost center was. So a cost center is something in a company, right here. It's a department or a function within an organization that does not directly add to profit, but still costs the organization money to operate. It's basically bureaucracy. Cost centers only contribute to a company's profitability indirectly, unlike a profit center, which contributes to profitability directly through its actions. Managers of cost centers, such as human resources and accounting departments, are responsible for keeping their costs in line or below budget. So yeah, the AV Guild is not a cost center. It's a profit center, hopefully, is what we're trying to do. And so is the Design Guild. Anybody that can go outside of the DAO and stuff like that is a profit center. But we have this program here called First Quests, which is a cost center. And First Quest is basically the concierge. It's how people get into the DAO. They go there, they go to start here, and then they go through the First Quest program in order to fulfill those quests, in order to get oriented, and then they get directed to guilds of where their competency or interest is. But yeah, it's not something that directly brings revenue into the DAO, but it does provide a service. So for instance, anybody that goes through First Quest and then they get directed towards the Writers Guild, well, then maybe the Writers Guild would give them a payment for every single person that is brought to their guild by the First Quest. And so anyway, that could be some example of the cost center being kind of a profit center in a way, and then contributing to that economy. So yeah, okay, and then another point here is benefits of distributed capital flows. The examples above are inkling of what a functioning DAO economy could look like, where each working group, guild, project, initiative, committee operates as a discrete economic component and engages in commerce with the rest of the DAO for goods and services. At first glance, an interconnected economic web seems convoluted relative to a central capital pipeline. And indeed, a distributed economy is infinitely more complex, but there are a myriad of benefits that are worth prioritizing. So what are these benefits of distributed capital flows? Decentralization and resilience. So decentralization, that's the whole point of DAOs. Creating an economic engine will ultimately reduce reliance on centralized intermediaries like grants committees. Nobody gets decentralization, I believe, more than Gen Zers, as they deal with this lockdown, as they deal with all this pandemic stuff, and suddenly they have a distrust for centralized top-down authorities, because the authorities have been waffling and flip-flopping so much that they've gotten to the point where they don't believe anything any of them say. And then they've been firsthand witness to a lot of this stuff in their time of mental and spiritual and physical growth. So they have a distrust for top-down centralized authority, and rightly so. So decentralization and DAOs should fit right in with them. Anyway, so creating an economic engine will ultimately reduce reliance on centralized intermediaries like a grants committee. Transitioning to distributed capital flows also creates a resilient economic structure, not reliant on centralized source of funding, susceptible to corruption, bottlenecks, and inefficient practices. Okay, so there's a lot of corruption going on in centralized institutions. So velocity is how fast you spend money. And economies really like high velocity because it shows that there's a lot of things moving and a lot of things going on. It's a very active economy. You don't want a stagnant economy. So that's why a lot of times with airdrops, I could foresee with programmable money like USDC that it would have a time limit on it. Otherwise, it evaporates, that you have to spend it, because that's what keeps economies going. So yeah, programmable money is kind of a double-edged sword. They can decide, who gets what, how much they get based on certain criteria, and then how fast they have to spend it. So in economics, the velocity of money refers to the number of times a single unit of currency changes hands. The more transactions, the higher the velocity. Velocity is a useful heuristic for understanding how much value a single unit of currency can create. A single USDC from a central treasury is only worth one USDC, but it can have a larger economic impact if that single USDC is exchanged 5 times a week. So the faster money moves through, then that has a larger economic impact. For example, Bankless DAO has recently funded the Writers Guild. Let's say 600 bank will go to compensating a new member who's completed the Writers Guild First Quest. A third of that payment gets redirected to First Quest team, who then use 200 bank to pay a designer to create a new graphic. That 200 bank has now changed hands 3 times despite being the same 200 bank. In this way, DAOs can increase the impact of its native token by fostering an internal economy where tokens change hands more often. Okay, so velocity is good in an economy. So the future of work. What excites me the most about DAOs as economic engines is the potential for self-sustaining work. Yeah, this is in the early stages of DAO evolution, but DAOs are the future of work. Each initiative acting as a unit within a larger economy has multiple ways towards revenue generation and becoming a self-sustaining group. As the DAO economy becomes more advanced, we'll see economic models emerge that will uniquely suit the goals of their creators. DAOs as an economy will frame each initiative as having a modular set of tools to generate capital inflows and outflows that will eventually sustain the underlying team as a source of income. And the road ahead. The DAOs do have a long way to go. They're in the nascent stage, but the next phase of our evolution will mean DAOs will look more like economies. This whole point of this article, where discrete units have their own operating procedures and methods for capturing inflows and distributing outflows. DAOs will inevitably evolve into complex ecosystems where each edge can engage in commerce with others. It creates an organic feel, not this top-down imposing structure. It seems like throughout history, there's been the native people, the indigenous people. Then you have which has no legibility, and to the top-down establishment. So what the establishment has been trying to do through colonialization and all other types of oppression is to create legibility so they can effectively tax everybody and pull that labor and revenue out of that and suck it out of the organic structure of a society that possibly was already there. So DAOs, instead of doing that and basically stealing the labor from people, it allows all these tiny little economies to all work together, rather than coming in and extracting. It enables, it empowers. So yeah. Okay, well, that being said, that was a good article. Yeah, so check it out. I'll link it in the bottom. So yeah, let me go ahead and put my outro music on. Yeah, thanks again for watching my video. Click the little like button, I guess. I'm not really into all this for subscribers and likes. This is just my blog, but I guess it does help the algorithm and stuff. And yeah. So thanks for learning about this stuff with me. And let me take some of my kombucha. 37 minutes. I didn't think I would have that much to talk about this morning, but I always do. All right. I will talk to you